Latonis.
I'm Milka.
And our special guest today is Michelle Chevalier.
Welcome, Michelle.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for meeting with us. And Michelle and I have a unique relationship because our daughters actually played against each other, played with each other, and are good friends.
Yes.
So we have enjoyed a relationship prior to our interview with her today.
Definitely.
But what our topic is today, and when we reached out to Michelle and asked her about doing this for us, she said that the topic that we're going to talk about is important and it's relevant, especially right now. So we are just going to let you go ahead and tell your story. And what we're talking about today is actually the portal.
The transfer portal.
The transfer.
The transfer.
Which is tough in basketball and football. But Michelle's daughter plays basketball. So,
So will you start us off with explaining what the transfer portal is for some parents that just aren't in the know yet?
Absolutely. So the transfer portal, that was launched in 2018, and the purpose of the transfer portal was really to add transparency for students that wanted to transfer and change their environment and attend a different university than the current one they were experiencing. And then in 2021, prior to 2021, in 2018, they made it where you can transfer, but you had to sit out a full year
Yes.
before you can play.
Right.
So there was kind of a penalty, if you will, right? So it kept some student athletes a little more reserved and maybe forced them to stay in a situation because they didn't want to sit out. And then 2021, they revamped the rule, and the rule allowed for immediate eligibility upon transfer for a one-time transfer.
Right.
And so now, what we're hearing so much, the reason why I say it's so important and so relevant is because, you hear about it all the time. Like, kids are entering this transfer portal left and right. Certainly in the basketball space, which is what we're familiar with, we all have, in football everywhere. At the end of the day, I feel like the student athletes are now more empowered and can have more control over their future, as they should. They're young adults. They're transitioning into adulthood. And I feel like it's so important now from two different perspectives. As a parent of a student athlete, my daughter plays basketball at University of Texas Tech. And so just watching her experience, I'll separate the two, but it's so important because you can hear different stories and reasonings why students want to transfer.
Right.
And at the end of the day, I find it frustrating and angering when I see different situations where kids are entering the portal and they're verbally attacked by whether it's a super fan who just doesn't want to see their favorite player leave. There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
And of course, you have a lot of trigger-happy people hiding behind computers.
Right.
Wow.
That
The
trolls,
faceless
the faceless,
accounts.
yes, and they attack these kids and are quick to judge. Why are they leaving? And then they'll speculate and, oh, it's this reason, that reason, oh, playing time, or it's, whatever. And it creates this negative narrative about, something that is so personal and so varied. The reasonings behind wanting to transfer is unique to every individual. For some, maybe they're homesick, and they just want to be closer to home. Maybe they need and want that family support, and so they'll want to go to a school that's closer. And for some, it's, the experience is not what they expected.
Right.
The coach is not who they thought they were.
Right.
And in my situation, in my daughter's situation, it was completely a situation that was out of her control. There was a changing of coaches. Prior to her arrival at the University of Texas is where she started first. So you have that element where a month before she steps on campus at University of Texas, there's a coaching change. None of us saw that coming. So now it's like, okay, well, this was her dream school. This is where she wanted to be. So it wasn't even a consideration. What do we do now? She wanted to be at that university. And so she was going to, embrace whoever was stepping into her role.
And Michelle, I'm not gonna interrupt you, don't want you to lose your train of thought, but we're nodding because our Milka and LaTonis both experienced that with coaching changes.
Coaching changes.
Right, so
before we left.
Right, so when you said that, I was like, that could have easily been my son's experience and our experience, because same thing happened, everything you just said, a month before, bam, coach fired, and I'm like, oh my God, like we woke up to mayhem.
Yeah.
And so, fortunately, he didn't have to enter the portal, but that was gonna be
Yeah.
an option for us.
Right.
It had LMU and other schools not came along, but we didn't, I was like, I looked at my husband, and he looked at my husband like, what we gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, cause the coaching changed.
Yeah, no, for sure.
I appreciate your perspective though about the different reasons why kids
Yeah.
enter, and I hadn't thought about that. If you can kind of divert and go back to your thought that you were gonna continue on before Robin asked a question. What do you think about, what is your perspective about the kids that enter the portal and then they sit there and now they don't have a scholarship because no one picks them up? What is your perspective and your thought on that? If you wanna address that after you finish your thought.
And I have a question too, I don't know if you remember all this and talking, but
Okay.
right. Was the portal a positive or a negative experience for you guys?
It was a necessary experience.
Necessary.
I'll put it that way.
Okay.
It was a life-saving
Okay,
experience.
so you'll get into all that.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
definitely
It
positive.
wasn't even an option for us.
Yeah.
It was the only way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
In that alone.
Yeah.
Right.
So, going back to, again, just the reasonings. So it just opens up the doors for these young student athletes to just be attacked and,
Right.
and trolled and verbally abused and all that stuff. And I've witnessed this, and I don't think Ashley personally experienced that too much. And I remember after her transfer, I mean, there was a lot of movement. This summer, this spring and summer, there was so many movement from major Power 5 schools. And
Michelle, let me
yeah.
ask you a question. Was that because before you had to sit, and the reason you didn't have to sit, was that because of COVID? Is that why you could give it to the portal and not have to sit, was because of COVID?
I
The
think they
changes?
considered it and then went into changing the rule to then, changing it for everyone.
And
But
is
I
it
didn't
gonna
think
be
it was
forever?
different.
Is this gonna be,
But you know what? I don't want to say forever because the rules always change.
okay,
They're constantly changing.
They are.
okay.
And it's always interesting to see why they're changing and who does it benefit more and so forth.
Gotcha.
So if you actually took the time to break down and see, different perspectives, whether it's college coaches, analysts, and so forth, some would argue that now coaches are suffering, right? Coaches are suffering because rosters are completely, turning over,
Right.
right? And so they have a full roster. Well, let's take Ashley's program, for example. In the year and a couple months she was there, they went through 9 players, 4 coaches. That's a lot of movement.
Yeah.
But then you also have to wonder why so
Yeah.
much movement. So that opens up a whole nother plethora of questions, But at the end of the day, it's that movement. People are saying now it's affecting. So it's going to be interesting because the narrative's starting to change. Well, these poor coaches, they're having to coach with a whole new roster and reteach a system, and and that's fair. That's true. That aspect is true. But let's not forget that these student athletes, like my daughter, had a coaching change. And many coaching changes happen, and no one thinks twice about, these coaches are going for greener pastures themselves, and no one flinches.
So they come in with, with kids that they want to recruit, and they change the whole staff sometimes.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're not thinking about the kids.
Absolutely, so if you're going from coaching at a mid-major, you've worked hard, and I'm all for that. If there's a level that you want to aspire to, and that door opens, by all means. But at the same time, someone is still affected, and those kids are affected because they build relationships.
Right. That's
And
so
for the
true.
most of the time, they're great relationships.
Yeah. And how hard, we talked about that too, how hard it has been for us. Like for Jade, I think we've all experienced the coaching change. And you think that you're going to play for, the person that recruited you,
Yeah.
and that person, like you said, takes an opportunity someplace else, and nothing is considered. I mean, yeah, you know, it's not like it's a bad thing for them because
Yeah.
they're looking at other opportunities, but the effect that that has on the kids, we all experience it. It's
Yeah.
tough.
Yeah, so it's tough. So just starting there, it's again kind of wanting to change that narrative and so much negativity and challenging people, whether you're a super fan or even a parent, a loved one, a supporter, and because even that pressure comes from home too.
Yeah.
You know, I know people that are currently in situations they're not happy in, but they're staying because that pressure from sometimes from family, where you know they want them to be part of this prestige or this level, and this name, this brand, right? And that's very real. And I'll be quick to say as well, like I groomed my daughter for Texas. You know, I had her growing up watching because there was a player who I thought she had a lot of likeness to, and I reached out to that then coach and initiated that. You know, I can totally see her playing here. You know, it was fortunate that my daughter bought into it and loved it equally as much, and it's her dream, our dream, you know, came true.
I mean, I think it's interesting because, like you said, the whole family feelings, you know, get involved. It's not just the players; it's the whole family is in it. You know, so we're all celebrating or we're all devastated.
That part, and I've been all of that. Right. Because, you know, like Robin knowing me, and again with our relationship. Tell me I wasn't in burnt orange all the time, repping, you know, throwing up the, you know, and because I'm invested in my child, and this is who my child represents. I'm all about it, you know.
And like you said, Michelle, if that change was made, it was because it was necessary.
Yes.
Because you were definitely, I mean, that was her school, and that's where she aspired to go, and we supported her. So if she made that change, when she made that change, it had to be something that was necessary.
So at what moment, take us through the moment that you guys made the decision that she was gonna go into the portal. How did that come about, and explain to us the process for you and her?
Yeah.
So did she have to decommit?
Oh no,
She was already there.
She was
She was
already
already
there.
there.
She
Okay.
played a full year.
Okay.
And then returned for her second year, and it was
Coaches
very
had
early
left.
going into. No, the coaches left prior to her freshman year,
Oh.
so she went knowing she was playing for a new coach.
Okay.
And in all fairness, you know, we did our homework. We knew of this coach.
Okay.
He was coming from a very prestigious school, and this was, you know, a great move for him, and had a lot of success and so forth. And to be frank, his style of play, from a coaching perspective, in my coaching mind, I coach basketball too.
For high school or college?
Both.
Okay.
I coach at Los Angeles, LA Southwest College.
Okay.
Yeah. And so I was, you know, and her dad is a coach
Okay.
at Sierra Canyon. We analyzed it. We're like, you know what? His style of play actually suits Ashley better. They play fast. They play, you know,
Yeah.
defensive. The new coach, defensive minded. That was our child all day long. If you describe his style of a point guard and player, Ashley fit that bill. So we were still all in. We were still invested. So now it becomes more of, we didn't have that time like you would in a recruiting process to get
build a
to know
relationship, right?
who these people are, character, personality,
Gotcha.
investment in young people,
Yeah,
okay?
it's important.
It's very important. And so going through that process with my daughter has been the most difficult thing I've ever had to witness. You know, being a coach for as long as I have been, and seeing her compete at an elite level for such a long time with a happy heart and relentless spirit and passion, true passion for the game. She's passion personified, and anyone with eyes could see that she exudes that the second she steps on a court. And to watch that over time lose herself in this environment that frankly was toxic for her. It was toxic. And the moments, honestly, it was a consideration even going back for year 2. But only because, you've got different voices and
Stick it out.
that part,
Tough skin.
Yeah, all of that,
Yeah.
and even varying opinions between parents.
Right. Absolutely.
And I'm more, I was all for me, having coached her too, and knowing not just because she's my daughter, the kid is a coach's dream.
Right.
Go through walls for you, all of that. So it was like, how could anyone deny this? How could anyone not want that on their team, So when she chose and wanted to compete and fight for her spot and essentially her experience at this university, I'm all for it because I love the fight. I love the passion. I love the belief and the confidence that young lady had, because everything was showing her not to go back, honestly. Everything was telling her that it wasn't going to be a warm hug. Everything, honestly. And I love, because that's my mentality, I love that I'm going to win him over. Mentality. But again, when you bring, first year, it's kind of a need. Because you got to work with whatever you got.
Yeah.
You inherited this.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay? Year 2, you already knew. We knew what was coming down the pipeline. Right? But at the end of the day, again, not afraid to compete. Hell, that's what it's all about at this level. You have to compete every year. There's always something coming for your job.
So how long did she stay in the portal?
She stayed in the portal for a long time by choice.
Okay.
Only because she wasn't ready spiritually, mentally, emotionally.
Go back through that.
This was, yes, and I'll speak frankly because again, I think it's important because this is where mental health is so real, and I have experienced it on a whole nother level at home with my daughter and watching her go through these changes.
Is your only child?
She's not my only child.
Okay.
I've had 3 other D1 kids.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 3 other kids that experienced all of these things on a different, and all of them stuck it out. All of them
break it down
stayed.
for us. Where did they play and what sport?
Okay, so my oldest daughter, Kimberly Brandon, played at Arizona State.
Okay.
My second oldest, Jennifer Brandon, played at Cal Berkeley.
Oh, there's.
Led them to their only Final Four.
Hey.
Yep. Drafted, WNBA, did all that.
Okay.
And my son played football at Holy Cross University in Massachusetts.
Girl, we gotta tell all that. That's amazing. 4 kids.
4.
Yeah.
So again, it's not, I'm not that, coddle. Yeah, I'm like, pay your dues, keep your head down, show them, be undeniable, make yourself undeniable every chance you get on that court. I'm telling her, I'm coaching her through these moments, these important, pivotal moments in her life.
Right.
And I'm thankful to God that I had my own experiences so I can help her navigate all of that. But at the end of the day, there was so much I couldn't prepare her for. There's stuff I could not prepare her for, and that's the very dynamics of a toxic environment.
So you mentioned mental health. So when you recognized that she was going through that, did you guys have to give her help?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, and wasted no time in doing that.
Right.
Wasted no time in doing that. So that was mid-season of her freshman year, and she's okay with me sharing this because again, she uses her platform now to speak on mental health and to speak on her journey. She does an amazing job of that on her own, and I haven't really shared the parent perspective and watching a child and loving a child through that and trying to pick up the pieces, really. Because I always try to stay away from broken, because I don't want to claim that she was broken, but that baby was bruised and beaten down, bruised and battered emotionally.
So how did you handle
So
that as
many
her
ways.
mom and coach? How did you separate it?
First, when I started to notice physical changes. Physical
She
changes.
stopped eating?
She started losing weight. She was experiencing insomnia and, she couldn't sleep. She wasn't sleeping, And there's a lot of things that went into that, that was non-basketball related, but on campus.
Yeah.
Okay? And
Was it
so,
with her team?
yes.
Okay.
yes. And really trying to be that super friend and super teammate for others that were experiencing stuff on a whole nother level without sharing anyone else's, on a deep level. And so this young lady comes in as a freshman and is taking on this role. I mean, because kids gravitate to her. You've seen that. She's an amazing leader, and they gravitate to her. And so she was an instant leader and kind of led the freshmen and even upperclassmen. And so when people were experiencing,
She was a threat.
and when people were experiencing things, they came to her, and she, and would help navigate those things. So there was a lot of things that were taking a toll on her, and a lot of those things too, sharing with me on when it became too much of a burden, and when it became to a space where I was concerned that it was going to affect now her grades. And her, first semester, 3.7, second semester, 3.7, all this stuff, but at some point, I had to reach out to the coach.
Yeah.
And it was never, and will never be, about playing time. Ever. It was about mental health and my concerns, and what I'm seeing, the changes I'm seeing in my daughter, and how I'm concerned, and different elements of what she was experiencing and having to go through and the help that she's getting. And because I'm a coach, I felt I want to know what my kid is going through.
Was Ashley sharing with you what she was going through?
Yes.
Or you just noticed? Okay, so she was communicating with you,
Yes.
telling you how she was feeling.
Yes.
And did she get help from someone on campus? Was
Yes.
it referred? Okay. So
Yeah.
They
She
did
had-
offer her some
She
assistance.
had to seek it out. She
Okay.
had to seek it out because my attempt to make known that my daughter is experiencing mental health issues was dismissed. Was dismissed. Well, I'm sure if she was playing more, that she would be okay.
Oh, wow.
That's your response. I'm sharing my heart
Right.
and some personal facts about my daughter and these changes.
What
that she's
was
going
affecting her
through.
has nothing to do with that. It's two separate things.
Yes. And mind you, this call happened after one of her best games and the most minutes she had. This had nothing to do with basketball and everything to do with what was happening and the environment and how it was affecting her and how no effort to get her support and help and and more than anything, just embrace her. That's all.
Right.
That's all. Embrace her.
Show her you can.
Yeah. But then things started to change because that moment I knew what I was dealing with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I know. And it's kind of like how we told our daughter, when someone shows you who they are the first time, you believe them that first time.
Right.
And we didn't do that right away. That's all hindsight. That's all when it came down to having to make the toughest decision of her young life, to walk away from her dream. Everything she had worked so hard for. Do I walk away? Well, when it's costing you your soul is not for sale. And that's ultimately what it came down to and leading up to that. So it was the dismissal of, I'm like, okay, now I know. And at this point, if I have to ask you to be a good person to my daughter,
Right.
we're done.
Right. Because ultimately when we entrust our children to the next level and these coaches, we're hoping that these coaches can step in should we pass away, should we not be around.
Yes.
That's always been the type of coach my husband has sought for Jaden. I will not let you be coached by any man that does not hold our same values and morals and thought process on how to care for your kid. They are an extended family,
Yes.
and you trust them, and for them to dismiss you,
Yeah, that's
I
definitely
get
what you need, because at the time when my son was ready to go to the East Coast, I was so afraid because we didn't know anybody over there, and I was like, oh my God, like, I'm trusting the staff.
Yeah.
You know, they're his new family, but I
Yes.
also need to know that
it's
I
like
can reach
kindergarten all
out.
over.
Yeah, I can reach out anytime, like, if
Yeah.
an emergency arises.
That's right.
That you gonna think like I'm a thing,
Yeah.
you know, so.
Well,
Well,
and
we
it's,
experienced that between each other.
yeah.
When because Jada was playing for a different club team, and we moved because we trusted Michelle. So we had to trust, and we did, and we built that rapport, and we talked, and we text, and we talked, and we text, but that was the only way that we felt confident in knowing that you were an extension of us,
Yeah,
for Jada.
for
So,
sure.
Yeah.
And you touched on, you hit the nail on the head, because at the end of the day, when these kids go on recruiting trips,
Yes.
what if the coaches sit in your homes telling you,
Right.
I'm going to be an extension of you,
Right.
I'm going to be
Right.
like a
Tickets.
father figure, or a mother figure,
Yeah.
or whatever, we're gonna be the family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Sales pitch, yeah.
And mind you, coaching changed still, but that first call, we still got all that.
Yeah.
I'm such and such, I am here to be X, Y, and Z to your child. Beautiful.
You gotta get through all the fluff.
Yeah.
Yeah, you might have
You
to-
know, so not seeing that happen,
Yeah.
Yeah.
my daughter felt like she was on an island
Yeah.
at the University of Texas.
Yeah.
She felt like she was on an island, like she was not made to, she wasn't welcomed,
Yeah.
embraced.
And that's tough.
And that is so tough, and she's
Especially
never,
away
never
from home.
experienced anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, did the new staff bring in other recruits that the original staff didn't bring in? You follow me? Because that happens in football sometimes. It happened at USC.
No, for sure, for sure. In year one, for sure. I mean, they came in already, you know, we started off probably on the wrong foot already, because that first interview was, we need a point guard. You know, we watching, we're all excited to see this new coach and hear the game plan, and we're excited, we're all in. And honestly, that was the first stab at her soul.
She's a point guard.
She's a point guard.
Yeah.
And so in that interview, yeah, I'm excited, our first job number one was gonna get us a point guard. And she looked at me,
Right.
okay, that chip turned into an iceberg, and you know what, you saw her play year one. She went in there like gangbusters and earned every minute and made the most of everything. So it wasn't about the basketball. It was never about the basketball. It was
So
about
where is she
other
now?
things. She transferred to Texas Tech.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
How
So
long
she was-
exactly was she in the portal? How long?
So she left December 7th, was in the portal by December 9th, and committed to Texas Tech late February. Yeah,
Oh, no.
So a couple of months.
yeah,
Okay.
not even, March. Yeah, just before, because I remember it was just before Final Four weekend. So it was
Well,
darn
in
closer
terms-
to April.
Yeah.
So
in
she
terms
was
of-
in there for a
Yeah,
while.
in terms of the season, that is very long.
Right,
Yes.
right. So actually, it was before Final Four weekend. You know, because she had another high-profile team, you know, that she was considering, and that whole process, she didn't want to make a decision based on who they are, their name, their
Right.
brand, you know,
As a female.
and would have liked to get to know them on a
Right.
different level.
Yeah.
But they were locked in, respectfully locked into their pursuit of a national championship, which they very could have done. But that process just didn't fit
Right.
Ashley's timeline,
Mhm.
and she found what she was looking for at Texas Tech. Everything she needed, really, at Texas Tech. So on paper, from the outside looking in, the team of all her choices with the worst record, with, you know, like, it wasn't like a glamorous move, you know, respectfully, because even Texas Tech, they're making moves. Ashley wanted to be part of that process,
Yeah.
but it was because of the people. Her next move was about people
Yeah.
and who saw her value and who was going to be invested in her you know, because
To become a part of the team.
absolutely, and to feel like part of
Family.
the team and family and all that stuff. This is what this girl's grown up knowing, because as a coach, she's watched me do that and bring home loads and loads of girls and cook for them and movie nights and you know what I mean? And so she knows what it feels like to be immersed in a
You feel
full
like a family.
and
Yeah.
she knows what that feels like. You can't fool her. You can't tell her we're family.
Right.
And
You're not showing
no,
it.
you're not showing. No, you're dealing with a kid on a whole nother level.
Right.
Her daddy been bringing home players for years, and I'm cooking for them and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that didn't fly too well, and it tore at her and it tore out at her, and I honestly remember one of those turning points for me mentally, for me, because I could hear her pain.
Mhm.
Like to call me and be like, Mom, I feel like I'm on an island.
Mhm.
I don't even feel wanted.
Mhm.
There's no one, they don't even coach me anymore like that.
Right.
Like, wow, you know? And that's what she's there for. She
Yeah.
wants to be coached. She wants, and coach hard, don't get me wrong.
Right.
Because this coach is known for being a hard, in your face, you know, coach. Great. That's what I was to her.
Right.
That's what it was to your baby, you know? And that's what she had in high school. And that's who her daddy was in coaching her. Never afraid of that.
Yeah.
And then she's a step up, highest moment, biggest pressure. She's a gamer.
Yeah.
And even never broke. I have so much respect for my daughter for what she went through and still performed on a high level.
Mhm.
Year one, but then year two, that the beginning, and then again, those when his players came in, and then there was really a shift, because there was still a need year one. Now, you just not seeing her in that big picture.
Mhm.
And it's like, okay. And for her mental health, because again, there was no support, she had to go. She had to go.
Yeah.
So it's fair to say that the transfer portal pretty much saved her life.
That's 1,000% accurate.
And that's like I said earlier, that's an awesome perspective for you to share with us, because we've been on the outside looking in, and you do buy into the negative part of it. Why are you going to the portal? I see it. Why are you going to the portal? You're just going to sit there. Now you don't have a scholarship. If you don't get picked up, now you just lost an opportunity.
Right.
Get your degree. Who cares about playing? And I've seen that. So that is, your perspective is awesome for our viewers, because there are probably people out there going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And the reason you choose the portal is personal.
Yeah.
It saved your daughter's life. She's probably still going through mental care. Take us a little bit through that. Like, what has her care been like? Is it still ongoing? Is it something that you are really watching over still? And the reason I'm asking is because I myself shared about mental health going through cancer. I'm still going through cancer. So mental health, I get it. It's something that once you're in that spiral, it's something that you have to continue to take care of.
Yeah.
It's a disease. It's a real disease. So
Absolutely.
share a little bit about what that has looked like for her and still looks like.
That's tough. That's gonna be a tough one
And
for
I
me.
understand it.
Yeah.
It's okay. If you don't feel comfortable, we can pass
It's
on.
important.
It is important. It's okay.
It's important to share, because people see what they see on TV,
Right.
and they see the glitz, and they see the glamour,
Right.
and yes, she was part of that, but inside she was dying, and she went to a very dark place. And we see and we hear about this more prevalent, more than ever. I don't know if it's because of social media, or, you know, and 2020 certainly magnified, you know, that feeling of isolation, that feeling, you know, raised anxiety and so forth.
Yeah.
But seeing my own daughter go through this, so unnecessarily so, because she's a good kid and a good person with a good heart, and a whole lot of love, had a whole lot of love for this game. And to see that diminished
Yeah.
and reduced,
Yeah.
and trying to coach her back into that belief that someone's inability to see your worth does not diminish your value. And again, I'm so thankful to God that I'm here to continue to feed and speak life into that girl. Because that's what I do. I speak life into her.
That's good.
And she is working her way, and I'm going to claim that she's on her way to restoration, but it has been a journey.
Yes.
She left December 7th. She could not step into a gym. Did not step into a gym till 2 weeks prior to stepping foot. And she left the weekend of July to go to Texas Tech. Could not. Tried to, could not. Anxiety,
Yes.
stress. She couldn't.
There was trauma.
There
in that
was,
experience.
there's
Yeah.
real trauma.
Yeah.
And even more recently, I went to Greece to support her, you know? And again, on the outside looking in, and anyone who follows me knows I support my God, so no one's surprised to see me in Greece living my best life, you know?
Absolutely.
But the fact of the matter is, I felt a need to be there to
Yes.
support her
Yes.
as she took this important step with this new family and embracing this new team and starving for this new experience.
I'm not sending my baby out the country. I'm going with her.
I'm going with it. You know?
She probably was there the same time Chance was there. What were the dates?
They were there the 6th through the 16th.
Oh, okay, just before. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Not the same time, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah. We
You
went to
know?
same place.
Oh, really?
Mhm.
So, on that journey, I can tell you, game one, she had a very real, and that's the first time that I've actually embraced using the word PTSD.
Yes.
She has PTSD.
Yeah.
And I'm talking, you're 10 months removed from this environment, and she's so deeply scarred that she's still experiencing trauma,
Yeah.
trying to move on with her life.
Yeah.
Do you know how serious that is? And scary for me as a parent,
Absolutely.
you know? So she's working through things still, and she has the resources. And I will tell you, on her official visits with these other schools that she was considering transferring, when they would make all these wonderful pitches and talk NIL and think like those things, the things that kids want to hear,
Right.
and they ask her, Ash, what do you need? What do you want? What are you looking for from us? And my daughter would say, do you have mental health services? Do you support mental health? Do you know how deep that is?
That's a testament to the influence you've had over her and her resilience.
Thank
So she is going. I'm getting emotional because I know I have PTSD from the trauma of being told I had cancer and still battling it. And so her resilience and her ability to say that, to ask for that, to self-advocate, that is what's saving my life. I've had to knock on different doctors' doors to even find out that I had cancer, and it was already advanced. So for her to say that, how old is she?
She's 21.
She's amazing. She's going to be good. I understand your work and your care because our youth today are so quick to want to end it.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you're that mom that has supported her, that's so important for her. And to know that you're there for her, she's not alone. That's the key. For me, what has helped me is finding people that are experiencing what I'm experiencing. So maybe that's something, you said she has the resources, I'm sure she does, but finding someone else that has her story, because there are more people than we know that have our story.
Absolutely.
But I applaud her.
Thank you.
I applaud you.
Thank you.
It's awesome.
So going back to that moment and knowing when it was time,
Yeah.
she called me one time, sitting on the floor in her bathroom, crying, Mom, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And in my gut, I had that feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know what this is. Are we talking basketball or are we talking about life?
Right.
Right? But yet at the same time, because I'm that speak life into existence, all that stuff, I didn't want to speak that into her mind if that's not the route, you know? So I'm like, get up right now. We're FaceTiming and I know, get off the ground right now. Why are you on the floor? Get up. But it was that because I just had that ugly feeling. I knew why she was on the floor and I knew what she was talking about. And that reality didn't come out until that young lady from Stanford, you know. Yeah. And when that was public information, and that hit Ashley a different way, where it led to real conversations in our home. And that's when she shared with me where she really was. And I just, you know, come here.
Yes.
Never is that. No,
Yeah.
you know. So her scars are real and so deep, and her trauma, you know, she's going to be fine in the name of Jesus, because that's how I roll. That's how I roll. You know.
That's right.
And she's so strong. She is so stinking strong.
Yeah.
And again, just making that decision for herself and knowing what was no longer acceptable, and that she knew she deserved better. She knew she deserved better. She wanted better. And you know, but it's still battling that new reality is that, you know, I had to leave there. I'm like, you know what? This is how we end that. Stop even talking about that place.
Yeah.
Don't compare nothing. Apples to oranges, because she has everything she needs to be successful. She has beautiful, spirited coaches who love her, who believe in her, who are invested in her, and her teammates equally as beautiful. And the support staff outside, and going to Greece was that for me. That was that reassurance. Your baby's gonna be just fine.
Yeah.
These people got her.
Yeah.
They got her, and they are on her timeline.
Right.
They are understanding, and they are patient, and they're just loving on her.
So you know she's good where she
Her
is.
soul is getting fed, and at the end of the day, she emptied her bucket at the other place.
Yeah.
She emptied her bucket, because that's what we taught her.
Mhm.
You empty your bucket, you give everything you got,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But then there's that, it's supposed to be replenished,
Yeah.
because she's watched me and how I do that.
Well, she's gonna be
You
able to
know?
mentor other kids.
Yeah.
That's her
Watch.
story.
Yeah.
Her story is that
And she wants to be a coach,
Yeah.
and trying to, you know, it's always easier said than done. Like, you know, when you're living it and you're in that moment, because I had my tough moment my senior year in college, and when you're in that moment, you don't want to hear how this is gonna make you stronger,
Right.
this is gonna make you better. You don't want to hear that.
It hurts right
But
now.
it's true, and it's so real.
Yeah.
And so I would even tell her, I'm telling you stuff I know you don't want to hear right now, because I've been in that seat before. But trust me, baby
Yeah.
girl,
Yeah.
God is going to use you and this whole experience for whatever purpose, and you just have to believe that.
Mhm.
You know, we don't know why, and just don't question it. Just sing in the rain. And sing in the rain.
No, that is key, and I think you telling her that is probably one of the things that has helped her in her ear. Because for me, through chemo, that was the toughest part. Sitting in my pain and accepting where I was what made me not lose my mind. So she is learning to sit in her reality, in her situation, and you continuing to keep that stuff in her ear is so important. You'd be surprised how many parents don't feed their kids that life. Feed your kids life. Because my husband is a social worker, and he was talking about that today with his supervisor about, he said, you know, today we have to really pay attention to what our kids are telling us and what they are feeling, and he said, and we have to reassure them that we got them.
Yeah.
Because the last thing we want is for them to want to end it
Yes.
in a tragic way.
Yes.
And so it's important, oh my God, it's so important that whatever they're telling you, we don't dismiss it, we don't try to make them do what we think they should do. Listen to your kids and tell them that no matter what, you love them, that no matter what, you support them and you have their back, no matter what they do or who they are, who they think they are.
Amen.
It's so important.
Yes, and that's the key, you know, because we've come to that space where if this isn't what you want to do, I support you. I love you because I'm not losing my baby to an orange round ball. You know,
Right.
you know,
Yep.
not at all.
Yep.
And so I am here to love her through whatever turn this journey takes. I got her, and she knows that, and she knows we love her and support her. And so many people have, you know, reached out to her because you almost saw it. If you really know her,
Yeah.
you saw the changes, you saw the hurt, you
Yeah.
saw the pain, you know. That one game where she was on top of the world from anyone else looking in, and she had hit a big 3-pointer in the corner, and her team and the other team called timeout. It was at Kansas, I'll never forget. And so she's like numb, lifeless. And that day, she had called, she didn't want to play that day. We literally had to pray her through that situation, go do what you were meant to do, get in that mode, and knowing where she was, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and to go out and compete at that highest level, and then watch her though, her teammates are shaking her like, yeah, and she's just, you know,
Yeah.
lifeless. That was like, this is serious. That's what led to that phone call.
Yeah.
That was like, this is not okay. She was hurting, you know. This isn't basketball. She's not even having fun, and this game has only been fun to her, you know.
Well, Michelle, thank you for your
Yeah.
transparency because, you know, talking about the transport portal, that was our topic, but mental health is so important. And, you know, I watched Ashley's interview that she talked about her, and I sat and I watched the whole thing and I cried through it because I know Ashley personally. So I know that she's a fighter, and I know that you're a fighter, and she has a good network, a family network, you know, immediate, and now it sounds like she's found an extension of that. So, and I know you're gonna be, you know, all in the mix, as you should be, making sure that she's okay, but thank you so much for your transparency.
Absolutely.
For sharing your story.
You're amazing. I can tell. That's why she's amazing, and I know she's gonna be okay. And if she ever needs to talk to somebody that has PTSD, give me my number.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
We're
Yeah.
hope that, you know, we can add to that extension that she might need.
I think one important thing to add, especially for the young people that watch, is that you really have to assess what is best for you.
Yeah,
What is right with your soul.
that's right.
Because your soul is not for sale, and don't think that you have to endure,
Right.
you know, toxic environments just
Yeah.
to be a part of something special.
Right.
There's an environment that will fit your needs,
Yes.
that you can still be successful
Yeah.
and get the love and the support that you need.
If it doesn't feel right, it ain't right.
That part, you know? And for coaches, even more important, because I know this has added a heightened sensitivity to me as a coach.
Yes.
And my approach, especially on the club scene this summer,
Yeah.
and how many kids are dealing with anxiety, you know, and mental health issues, it was on a all-time high. And I love that they felt like they could talk to me about that, and I knew how to work with them through certain different situations. But as a coach, we have transformational coaches who know what their purpose is to transform and make deposits and change lives and influence in a positive way. And then you have the transactional coach, who is all about the transactions,
Right.
and it's a business.
Absolutely.
And the relationships, half of them don't want them,
Right.
Yeah.
or they'll give you the minimum
Yeah.